Hey guys, today's video is how to make the top that we just put on even with the box like we see here. So this is nice and even rather than having that overhang. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. We're going to start by using the router right here. Let's get going. Alright, so with the router, I have a bit in here that's called a flush trim bit. Flush trim bit looks like that. So this is your bit right here. All right, so it's got a bearing on the end, and then it's got a straight cutter here underneath that. So the way this works is we're going to set this bearing so that it is riding on the part of the box that we want everything above it to match. So what that means is I'm going to set the bearing on the box part, and then the cutter is going to be on the top, so that when we go to cut, it's going to take the top, cut it down until the bearing hits the box. And then once the bearing hits the box, it's just going to ride even along the box all the way around. Okay? So let's go ahead and set our depth for that. So I'm going to set this on the box like this, and I can see where my bearing is, so I'm going to adjust this to make sure that the bearing is on the box and the cutter is on the top. Tighten down our T-handle here, that's how we lock our depth. Since we didn't put a bottom in here yet, we can use this vise very easily just by opening it up large enough to get one side of the box in there, and then this is going to hold our box nice and secure during the whole cutting process. Okay, so the rule of thumb for how to router the outside of a box is that we want to router the end grain first. Okay, so this is the end grain of our top. We're going to router that first because it's going to chip out. Okay, if we're pushing this way, it's going to chip out here. If we router the edge first and then come back and router this, then it's going to chip out part of the box that we want to keep. So by routering the end grain first, even if this chips out a little bit, that's okay because we're going to come back and clean that up. So we don't want to get this all the way down to where we want it and then have it chip out. So we're going to do the end grain first. We also want to make sure we go the right direction. So when we're routering the outside of an object, we're going to router it counterclockwise. Okay, so I'm going to do my end grain first, so I'm going to go this direction. Then I'm going to do this end grain, I'm going to come back this direction towards me. And then I'm going to do my edge grain going that direction there. So if I were to draw a circle around here with arrows, I'd be going counterclockwise. But I'm just doing kind of one side at a time. Okay. All right, so I am going to mute before I turn this on just because it's so loud, but I want to just kind of give you a quick visual here. I'm going to have this router, this is called the sub base of the router. I'm going to have that part of the router sitting on top of the box where the bit is not in contact with the board. I'm going to pull the trigger and I'm going to make sure that the router's at full speed before pushing it into the board. And then I'm going to do my router. Now this may take 2 passes depending on how much hangover I have. I don't want to take off too much at once because then it's going to take off big chips and chunks out of my board, and that would be bad news at this point. Okay. Okay, so I did want to point out, I do have some chip out right here, and this is what I was referring to. So I have this piece here that's chipped out completely, kind of a big chunk here, but it's still within my overhang on this edge, so now when I come back to cut this edge, that'll all be cleaned up. Let's take a look and see what we got. Okay, so now we can see that the edges and end of this top are nice and even all the way around. So so it matches our box perfectly. Now, when you were putting this together, if you made your rabbet so that your rabbet sticks out further than your rabbet side here, you can actually go ahead and take this router and router this with the same bit while we have it here. And that'll just reduce the amount of sanding that you have to do. So I'm going to go ahead and router this edge here because that's where I'm at. Alright, so now I just essentially took away about 20 minutes of sanding that I don't have to do now. I still will have to sand it a little bit, but that's just to make it smooth. I don't have to make it even now. It's already even. So that helped out quite a bit. So now our box is even all the way around. Next few things we're going to do is work on the bottom. We still have a little bit of work to do on the top. We're going to cut the top off. We'll do that another time. That'll be our very next step, is to cut this top off. In between then, I'm going to do some sanding on this so that it's ready to go on the table saw. We got all these sides nice and even, get rid of all these kind of machine marks and things that we got in here, and prep it for a good cut on the table saw. Okay?